Here's another from our buddy Mark G. Hi, Dr. Price. I love your podcast. I'm new to the Bible and was wondering if you could shed some light on a passage I read in Luke. In Luke 19, Jesus is entering Jericho and invites himself to stay at the home of a tax collector. Jesus tells a parable about a nobleman traveling to a far country. I'm puzzled about the meaning we're supposed to take from this parable, especially the last line, Luke 19:27. But as for these enemies of mine who did not want me to reign over them, bring them here and slay them before me. Are we to think that Jesus is saying that this is what is to be done to those who do not accept him? This would seem to be shockingly out of sync with the ubiquitous depiction of a peaceful and loving Jesus. Well, okay, first of all, the great Zacchaeus story doesn't seem really to bear on this. It's making a different point, a really interesting one. I could get into that and spend a lot of time, but I guess I shouldn't. This parable is introduced by a really interesting Lucan comment. There are three places in Luke and Acts where somebody raises the question of the imminent coming of the kingdom. As Conzelman showed very well, Luke is urgent to throw cold water on such expectations because too much water's gone under the bridge. This generation return didn't materialize, and so he's trying to sort of stop the embarrassment and stop Christians from getting set up for the same embarrassment all over again. So, among other things he does to quell this kind of fanatical apocalypticism is to have this raised three times. In Luke 17, the Pharisees ask him, when is the kingdom of God coming? And he says, the kingdom of God is not coming with signs to be observed, or literally with observance. Neither will men say, look here or there, for the kingdom of God is within you. That's interesting. He's putting it on a whole different basis. You could prefer the almost apocalyptic rendering the kingdom of God is in your midst. I don't think that's the point, though. But even that would make the same point, that stop looking for it. You're only going to be disappointed. Then the last one, I'll get back to the middle one, but the last one is in Acts 1, I think verse 6, where after the 40 days of supposed comprehensive post-resurrection teaching, the disciples show themselves to be as stupid as ever because they're merely literary foils for Jesus. I say, Lord, is it that this time you're going to restore sovereignty to Israel? And he says, look, it's none of your business, the times and seasons that the Father has apportioned by his own will. You go out there and preach the gospel. So again, like, is it going to be now? Forget that. That's none of your business. It could be any time. Well, right in the middle is the one you're bringing up. And in chapter 19, it says, because some present were expecting the kingdom of God to come immediately, Jesus told them this parable. Now, what is the parable? Well, he's taken the great parable, just one of the greatest parables, the parable of the talents, Q parable, that you find in closer to its original form in Matthew, in which the landlord or the king or whoever is about to leave on a trip, and he calls in three of his servants, and they're like administrators, kind of, and says, I'm giving each of you money as about the amount I think you can handle, and I want you to multiply it for me by the time I get back. And two of them do it. One makes twice what the other makes, but the two make money, and when they get back, their lord is happy and rewards them. But the third guy was so terrified at the possibility of losing the investment that he didn't invest it, but merely hid the money, so at least he wouldn't lose that. He digs a hole in the ground, which is what some people did, and then he presents it to him and says, well, at least I didn't lose it. Here's your money back, safe and sound. I said, you lazy son of a bitch. You by your own words, you knew I expected some return. Why didn't you at least take it to the bank? bank and get some interest on it. Get this guy out of here. A great parable. God has given you a certain amount of potential, a certain amount of time in your life. It's up to you to make something out of it, and one day you're going to be held responsible. Okay, let's have the report. What did you do with your life? Oh man, what a great parable. Well, it doesn't really survive intact in Luke because he's got this anti-apocalyptic strain, this burden, this fixation. Two great books about that would be Conselman's The Theology of St. Luke and C. Eric Franklin. Oh, I got the right guy there. Christ the Lord. I think that's the name. I know that's the title. Anyhow, what do we have here? We have the rudiments of it, but now they're 10 guys, and they're not given talents, but minas, a different currency. And the reason that their boss is leaving is he's going to a far country on a long trip to receive kingly authority from the Roman emperor. And then he finally comes back, and we see what people did with the money entrusted to them. And the same thing happens. But he adds, and for those as soon as he leaves, the people who he's already governing send an embassy after him saying, please don't give this guy royal authority. We would not have this man rule over us. It doesn't work. The emperor crowns the guy anyway, and when he gets back home he says, you're going to be sorry you did that. Bring those troublemakers here and kill them for my entertainment. Well, okay, the element of the delay is certainly in there. He goes to a distant country and finally comes back, right? The king is not coming just as they expected Jesus would return as the messianic king. This guy's going to come back bearing kingly authority, but it's not going to be soon. But when he finally does, you better get out of the way. You better not pout, you better not cry, etc. Now, why the viciousness? Is it a threat? Well, yeah, I guess it is, but I have to admit you can't be absolutely sure of that because it may just be intended as part of the window dressing. The fact that he's made the man an official who goes away to receive a kingship, a lot of folks think this is Luke has added an element from the story of Archelaus, the son of Herod, a Jewish ruler who wants the kingship that his father had, that Herod the Great had. He wants an actual royal title, which he didn't have. And that when he goes to Caesar, Caesar says, yeah, all right, no problem, your majesty, and he sends him home a king. Well, if that happens, if you tried to get him not to be, I mean, look what's happening in Iran even as we speak. You're protesting the outcome of the fixed election and you supported some other guy. No wonder the goons are going to be out there knocking your head in. So it may simply be a kind of a part and parcel of the story of Archelaus going a far distance away to get a kingship and come back as king. That's really the comparison with Christ, and not necessarily every point of it. A parable isn't necessarily an allegory where every point is to be interpreted. A lot of it may simply be window dressing, stage setting. But I admit it wouldn't be that unusual for a parable to end with a threat. So maybe it is in there for that reason. After all, you could have made the point of the man going far away and coming back as a king without bringing up the butchery of his enemies. So let me, however, say that if you don't like the idea of Jesus saying it, there's no chance that he did. It's clearly Lucan redaction. And it's possible Jesus gave the original, if there was a historical Jesus, etc. It's possible that he spoke the original Q parable, but that doesn't have the punchline that concerns you here at the end of Luke's version. That is clearly Lucan redaction. So I hope that makes some sense, Mark.